What's for dinner? Should it be steak, chicken, or veggie lasagna? What many people don't know is that surprisingly, choosing animal-based products at the grocery store has a major impact on our land, oceans, and atmosphere. That isn't to say that we aren't concerned about the footprint we're leaving behind. As a parent, I'm personally very concerned about what the earth will be like as my children grow into adults. And like many of you, I grew up with the term global warming and learning to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So today I'd like to talk about how livestock produce carbon dioxide, or CO2, and methane emissions, how deforestation and desertification puts more CO2 into the air, and how the oceans are affected by dead zones and overfishing. So first I'll talk about how livestock specifically put CO2 into the atmosphere. A 2009 World Watch report states that 51% of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions come from animal agriculture. Now, partially this comes from three factors. We have the respiration or breathing of animals that puts 21% of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. 37% comes from the methane the animals produce, and 4.2% comes from forests being displaced for grazing and growing animal feed. So first we'll talk about the breathing. This World Watch report points out that livestock is indeed a human invention. And today, tens of billions of more animals are exhaling CO2 than ever before. Now, CO2 is not the only greenhouse gas animals are putting into the atmosphere. They're also releasing methane. This comes from the animal's digestive system and storing their manure. And now there's some good news and some bad news in regards to methane. The bad news first is that methane warms the globe at least 72 times more than CO2. The good news is that it has a much shorter lifespan than CO2. While carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for about 100 years, methane stays in the atmosphere for only about 8. This is great because if we did reduce animal agriculture, we could see a fairly quick change in the world. Now, I'll talk more specifically about how much rainforest is cut down and what desertification means. In his book, Comfortably Unaware, Dr. Richard Openlander states that 50 years ago, 15% of the world's surface was covered in rainforest. Today, it's just 2%. Since 1970, 30 million acres of rainforest have been cut down each year. And right now, that's happening at a rate of 1 acre per second. This is such a big issue for the earth because as animal husbandry is producing more CO2 and methane than ever before, we are cutting down our planet's ability to recycle those greenhouse gases into oxygen. This term, desertification, so next I'll talk about desertification. On the World Day to Combat Desertification, that's June 17th, the United Nations reported that 12 million hectares, 1 hectare is 100 square miles. So 12 million hectares are lost to desertification each year. Now what does desertification mean? This happens because grazing and farming practices destroy topsoil. And as more and more topsoil is lost, desert-like conditions take over. When this happens, the land can only hold minimal water and support minimal life. And as this happens, this land is lost for generations as part of the planet's recycling system. So this term desertification can be carried over into what's happening in the oceans. Only in the oceans, it's called dead zones. The new documentary Cowspiracy talks about how the oceans are affected by overfishing and factory farm runoff. First, I'll talk about factory farm runoff. What is this? In the United States alone, 116,000 pounds of animal excrement is produced every second. What does this mean for the ocean? According to the NRDC, that's the Natural Resources Defense Council, these factory farms don't just pump this stuff into the ocean. they create what they call open-air lagoons. This is one here. Now, these lagoons, they're prone to leakage. And when these leaks hit the ocean, they produce algal blooms, which use up all the oxygen and effectively kill all the aquatic life in the area. Then you have what is known as a dead zone. Dr. Oppenlander states that there are actually over 500 dead zones around the world, covering an area of more than 95,000 square miles. So the second major problem facing the oceans today is overfishing. In the documentary Cowspiracy, the director Kip Anderson points to the 2006 United Nations report. This report states that 3/4 of the world's fisheries are either fully exploited, overexploited, or significantly depleted. In the movie, Kip also talks with representatives from the Conservation Society Sea Shepherd. One representative, Susan Hartland, stated that in 2013, 28 billion animals were taken out of the ocean. She says that they use huge fishing nets, and for each 1 pound of targeted species, up to 5 pounds of untargeted are caught. These are whales, sharks, dolphins, sea turtles. She says that as these species are being caught in such huge numbers, they don't actually have the time to reestablish themselves each season, and that actually there's no such thing as sustainable fishing. So today we talked about what my research has taught me about the effect of animal agriculture on the environment. We talked about how livestock is putting unprecedented amounts of CO2 and methane into the atmosphere. We talked about how much rainforest is cut down and how much land is lost to desertification each year. We also talked about the oceans and how they are affected by factory farm runoff and overfishing. Earlier I mentioned how we all grew up learning to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Here I've shown how reducing the animal products that we use can have a positive effect on the environment. John Muir said, "When one tugs at a single thing in nature, he finds it attached to the rest of the world." Thank you.